Coping with COVID. Updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. It's brought to you by the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. Visit scdheck.gov for an updated list of testing sites and important information on how to protect yourself, your family, and friends from the coronavirus. SCDHEC. Healthy people, healthy communities. In it together and the South Carolina Diabetes Advisory Council, presenting Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday on Coping with COVID. The City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, helping to meet the needs of small, minority, and women-owned businesses in the City of Columbia. Log on to columbiasc.net/OBO. Agape Counseling and Training Services. Call 803-779-2777 for licensed professionals of counselors and social workers helping families, engaged and married couples, and individuals of all ages gain an understanding of all aspects of their lives. If you're having a challenge coping with COVID, contact Agape Counseling and Training Services at agapects.com. And Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together. Coping with COVID, brought to you by SCDHEC. In it together, the Diabetes Advisory Council, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, Agape Counseling and Training Center, and Palmetto Media Connections.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Hey there, happy Friday. I'm Tre Tailor, and thank you so much for joining us on Coping with Tre Tailor. Today, we're coping with family and how to have a successful and stress-free blended relationship. Lori and David Sims launched NACHO Kids to do just that. These nationally renowned authors and counselors join us today on Coping. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Looking forward to a great conversation on this important subject. That and more coming up next on Coping with Tre Tailor, because we'll always be coping with something. But first, our COVID community updates. The Lexington NAACP is partnering with United Way to provide housing stability services. Now, this includes eviction and housing counseling, fair housing, mediation between landlords and tenants, survivors of domestic abuse or human trafficking, and individuals with disabilities and seniors, also rental assistance. You can see the information on the screen. Call 803-422-8299 to schedule an appointment. And Chick-fil-A is testing 2 new breakfast items. The Georgia-based company is offering new cheddar egg bites in their stores located in Ohio, Virginia, Miami, and New Orleans. They also have 2 locations in the area, including Aiken, South Carolina, and Augusta, Georgia. They are looking to get feedback to see if they should release this nationally. SCDHEC has your most up-to-date listings of times, dates, and location for COVID testing and flu shots and COVID vaccinations in and around South Carolina. Visit scdheck.gov. Now, throughout the show, you will see scrolling at the bottom of the screen all of the information I'm getting ready to run through, which includes COVID testing, where you can get 5 free rapid COVID tests, covidtest.gov, where you can find out where you can get tested and also vaccinated at gogettested.com. COVID vaccines, which are happening for veterans at the VA. Also, the several retail locations throughout the country that are offering vaccinations and testing. Kroger, Walgreens, and the CVS's. That includes the CVS's and Target stores. The Comet bus system in Columbia, South Carolina also offers free COVID shots and free rides to get your vaccine. And financial resources are also available, including the SC Bar Association and SC Legal Services. They've got a toll-free number and website for rental and mortgage help. SC Housing and Dominion Energy also have an energy rental and utility assistance program, and Lexington County has a bill assistance program. Now, we also have mental health help. The South Carolina Department of Mental Health is offering SC Hopes. Now, that's a 24-hour assistance line for anyone that's coping with COVID and coping with anything, because as we say here, we'll always be coping with something. We also have some job opportunities that are available to you in South Carolina, including the South Carolina State Fair has job openings. There is going to be a Pet Supplies Plus distribution center that is opening in Orangeburg. They're taking applications now. And also the post office is also offering jobs. The city of Columbia has their job fair that happens on Wednesday. All of that and so much more you can see on the screen right now, but it'll also be scrolling at the bottom of the screen throughout the show. If you'd like some fresh fruits and veggie, baskets are being given out at Hyatt Park in Columbia, South Carolina. Food Share takes weekly orders for that. And do you know how to sing? La, 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 la. Well, American Idol is doing their nationwide online casting September 14th. Visit AmericanIdol.com/auditions. I'm Tre Tailor, and you're watching Coping with Tre Tailor. We are streaming live on the Tailor Made production page on Facebook. That's the home of Coping with Tre Tailor. Please go over there, hit like and share and follow. And not only will you be able to find out when we go live on Wednesday, Wellness Wednesday, from In It Together SC, the Diabetes Action Council, and SCDHEC, but you can also find out all types of information and resources. We also have we're streaming live on the YouTube channel. Please go over there also. And we've got about 3 years of content, information, interviews, and so much more about coping with COVID and coping with everything, because we'll always be coping with something. So please go over there and hit the subscribe button. We also have a presence on Instagram and also on Twitter. Hey, don't forget that we've got the comment section. Please post your comments and we'll get your question to either myself or our guests today so that you can get the information you need. Today, we're coping with family. And we are talking to the folks with NACHO Kids. That's right. These folks are amazing. They are internationally renowned blended family experts, Lori and David Sims. They're the creators of the NACHO Kids method. They've been seen on headline news, radio and TV in New Zealand, and so much more. Lori and David's mission is to reduce the percentage of failed blended families by empowering step parents with tools to save their relationship and sanity by effectively using NACHO Kids parenting methods. Lori and David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi.
Listen, I want to know first how you came up with the NACHO Kids initiative. I know from your story that you guys are a blended family and you actually went to counseling to help, but that didn't really help. It kind of helped in a different way.
Yes.
Yeah, we were having troubles coping.
Well, always be coping with something. That's what we say here.
And that's the truth.
Yeah.
I'll give you the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah.
We got married, and 2 years in, things were bad to the point that we were about to get divorced.
Wow.
Yes, bad. And we went to a counselor that we had actually met with prior to us getting married, because we did our quote work before we got married, because we knew it wouldn't be easy. We read books, met with counselors, preachers, everybody. And when I called this counselor back, I said, hey, he said, I've been waiting for you to call. And we met with him, and thank God he knew how hard-headed I was, because stop, David, because he said, Lori, they're not your kids. And at first I was like, duh, I know how many kids I've had.
Right.
It kind of hurt my feelings because I cared about them.
Right.
And I said, but I want them to grow up and be fine, outstanding young men. And he said,
you wanted to help your husband who you love.
Right, exactly.
Well, I don't know about that moment. She might not love
I
me.
do love you. And I said, but, you know, I want them to be whatever and have good hygiene. Lori, they're not your kids.
Wow.
And I joked that he told me that 826 times, but it was close, really. To the point that I said, did you fall and hit your head? Because you're like a broken record.
Right.
But anyway, we left. And again, let me remind you, we were in a very, very bad place. Physically, the stress had gotten me so ill that they thought I had pancreatic cancer.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, it was horrible. David had even mentioned us living apart to try to get things to a better place. And I knew if I left, I wouldn't come back.
Right.
So
Lori, let me ask you this, and David, chime in if you can. What was the problem? What were all of the kids living under the same household, and it was just navigating the energy between the kids and the parents being in a different looking household? Was that the biggest issue?
The biggest issue was expectations. There were a lot of, we call it nuclear family expectations.
Right,
You want your new blended family to look like your initial nuclear family. And a lot of times those two things don't look anything alike.
Right.
And so you go into it with all the knowledge that you brought from your first failed relationship. And you're trying to do all these things. You're doing, hey, let's do family dinner together and let's do nighttime stuff together and all. But you're taking two different families with different cultures and different routines, and you're they call it blended for a reason. But you're cramming it all in there, and you're like, I want it to work, and I want it to work from day one.
Right.
And so the expectations for the kids were out of line. The expectations that I put on her as a stepmom were out of line. And of course, we didn't realize any of that until things started falling apart. And then we were like, wow, this is just not working.
Because you didn't mean any harm. You were just trying to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I came in being super stepmom.
Right.
To fix something I didn't break.
And you know what? You're not my mom, and these not your kids,
Exactly.
So. Yeah. Lori and David Sims joins us. They are the creators of the NACHO Kids parenting method. You can see their information on the screen. We're talking to them today as we're coping with blended families. So tell us, after you went through counseling and recognized, okay, these are not my kids, how did you come to figure out how you did need to then parent them? Because you can't parent them as your kids.
Right. After the counselor had told me that, we were in the parking lot. We actually drove separately to this appointment. That tells you again how we were in such a bad place. And I looked at David. I said, all that man said to me they were NACHO Kids. And I started laughing, and he started laughing. And that was the first time we had laughed. And honestly, I think a year. Right. And the clouds parted, the rays came down from heaven. I'm like, wait a minute. They are not my kids. I'm creating my own misery. Right. I can't care more than he does. And it's not that he didn't care, but it's just women are Johnny on the spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially with somebody else's kids. They see them do something wrong. They correct them. And David's got that 30-second man delay before he realizes things. And so I would always jump in. And by my jumping in, it prevented him from parenting, and it allowed me to overstep. And I had bad relationships with my stepkids.
Wow.
Thankfully, when I started nachoing, I stepped back. I did a lot of self-development. I learned to look at things from a different perspective, learned to pause before I spoke, learned to change my thinking, and also to let go of control of things I didn't have control of in the first place, but instead control how I let those things affect me.
That's big, Lori, because that's a personality thing you have to work on.
No, it wasn't easy.
Yeah, that has less to do with parenting than it does to have with being me, being you, being who you are as a woman.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. There's a lot of personal development that goes into our process.
Yeah. Yeah. Amy Lee says they love you. They love Lori and David. They've helped our blend so much. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please post and share so we can get the message to the masses, get more people like you to have a great blend, so to speak. So, all right, you get this, epiphany, you get this aha moment. And so tell us how you created and what is the NACHO Kids method of parenting.
So go ahead.
You want to start with it? Yeah. It's one of those things we didn't set out to create anything. It was, we were just trying to figure it out for ourselves.
For yourself.
And it was a lot of trial and error. And it was a lot of things we were discovering were very, I hate to say weird, but it was unconventional. It was like, wait a minute, we're doing things the opposite way you would think that it should be, but it's working. And so we would kind of make little changes, and we would, look at what's happening, and we're like, wow, this is actually working. And initially we were like, well, maybe it's just working for us. And it's, we just kind of stumbled across something that's really for us. Yeah. But Lori started reaching out and helping other people on Facebook that were having issues. And she'd come back and she goes, you know what? I told them to try this and it's working for them too. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And a lot of people think that we just started this, but this has been going on for 9 years. So over time, we kind of figured out a system to this and how things were actually working, and we helped other people with it. And then from there, people kept saying, look, we want a process. Like, we don't know what to do. Where do we start? And where are we even trying to go? And so that kind of snowballed into what it is today.
Yeah. So, tell me, what do you do? Because I know one of your nacho methods is to, and you mentioned this, Lori, and we can see your website right here. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Is to disengage as the nacho parent and let the bio parent step up. Is
Yes, ma'am.
that the basis of it?
That's the first step because
Yeah.
you've got to relieve the pressure.
Hmm.
And these kids don't need you to parent them. They have
A parent.
yeah, they've got two. And sometimes grandparents, so you can add four. And that's the first step. And then the second step is to, like I said, look at things from a different perspective. I was hurting so badly. I didn't see what the stepkids were going through. And honestly, I didn't care, which is
Right.
horrible to say. But they hated me. They were trying to destroy my marriage. It's hard to love these little gremlins that are trying to destroy your marriage. And then it's the process of, wait a minute, it's not really the stepkids, it's David's parenting that's bothering me.
Right.
And then I have to go through that process of, wait a minute, I thought he was a great dad before we got married. What happened? My perspective changed. And then you go through this whole process. I mean, it takes time because there's a lot of growth in this. And then you start to re-engage slowly with the stepkids. And you have to let them kind of navigate that. For instance, my stepkids, if they came back from their moms, if I said, hey, and they ignored me, it made me mad. So I stopped saying, hey. And that's not a bad thing because I was
Wow.
completely getting rid of any negative interaction. Before you know it, they're coming in saying, hey, Lori, or telling David, we can't wait to get home to tell Lori this. And it's
Mm.
because I was no longer trying to parent them. And we were not trying to force that relationship anymore.
Yeah. And I want to say too, Trey, that one mistake that families make is they look at that disengaging piece and they're like, oh, I just need to back off and disengage a little bit. And
Right.
they do that. And when they do that, they do start seeing the pressure go down. But then they go, okay, now I'm going to re-engage again. But they've not done anything to fix the issues. And so when they re-engage,
Okay.
all the problems come back and then
Right
go,
back.
well, guess what? Our relationship's just not going to work. We've tried it. It's not going to work. They don't realize that disengaging is one small piece of it. It's just to take the pressure off to then work on the problems before you can come back.
So how do you work on the problem? I guess, how do you work on the problem and disengage? Do you work on them within yourself
Yes.
and then change your perspective, like you said, Lori, about how you engage with the kids?
Well, there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
The first thing I would say is when you disengage, the stress comes off of you.
Right.
So it comes off the family.
Mhm.
And it opens up a completely different way to create the dynamic. So during that time of stepping back, you do kind of look at things like, okay, the stepkids, they're hurting too. Everybody's struggling in this.
Yeah.
And you step back to the point of what causes you stress. So for instance, cooking dinner caused me stress. I do not like to cook. I
Right.
would eat a waffle or cereal every night if I could instead of cooking. But the kids, if I cooked, they would be like, I'm not eating that. It looks like dog food. So I told David, I said, I'm done. I'm done. You feed your kids. I'll feed mine. If you don't want to cook for Jackson and me, then that way your kids are taken care of when they're here. So he started cooking for them. That relieves so much stress. And you've got to pinpoint what your triggers are, how to cope with those triggers, how to avoid them if you can, and how to realize when you're creating your own triggers. Yeah, there's our crazy bunch.
Yeah. And
Yes.
the thing is, you can't look at those pictures and realize how badly everybody was hurting at the time. It looks like everybody's having fun and great relationships, but we would leave there and then have World War III.
Yeah.
But to your previous question, a lot of what's happening during that time frame where there's disengaging is we're looking at taking the target off the back of the step parent
And healing.
right.
And healing.
And so there's a lot of things like Lori and I had to look at healing our own relationship. And if we're not in a good place, my kids are looking at her going, well, my dad don't like you. Why should I like you?
Right.
And
right.
so, we're having to fix that. And at the same time, we're looking at how can we create tons of positive experiences and interactions with the stepkids, because there's been a bunch of negative. So we've got to kind of remove that and find ways that we can have positive interactions from the step parent to the step kids. And that's most of the time facilitated by the bio parent, which was me.
Right.
And so I had to come up with ways to do that, but it wasn't it was kind of sneaky in a way, you know. It's like you don't want them to go, oh, I see what you're doing, but it really does become one of those things where in order to build the relationships, you have to have people that like each other, and so you have to do things where they go, oh, I like that, or oh, you thought about me, or whatever. And it takes time for those things to work, and relationships can't be forced.
Yeah, you got to work on you first. And I'm sure you thought, oh, I love this person, that's why you get married to the person. But then when you bring in the mix of other people and other personalities and other issues, that does, present a strain on your relationship. Lori and David Sims joins us. They created NACHO Kids to help reduce the percentage of failed blended marriages by empowering step parents with tools to save their relationship and sanity by effectively using the NACHO Kids parenting method. Please post and share this information out so we can get the message to the masses. So listen, what do you do though if the bio parent doesn't step up and do what they're supposed to do?
Oh, that's the fun part. So we'll give you an example. And I use little Johnny and little Susie. Little Johnny and little Susie have made a horrible mess in the living room. The stepmom comes in from work. She's angry about it. The worst thing she can do is say, David, how about you make your lazy kids do something and pick up their mess? Because we all have the mama and daddy bear. And even after 13 years, don't say nothing about my baby.
My kid, right. They still my kids. Don't say nothing about it.
That's it. So instead, I would come in and say, hey, David, while I'm starting dinner, when I would cook, while I'm starting dinner, can you get the living room straightened up? I never said anything about it.
That's good, Laurie. Never mention the kids.
Never. The number one rule of nachoing is not to say anything negative to or about the kids.
Wow.
And that can be as simple as asking little Johnny to brush his teeth, because that can be negative. Let the bio parents do that. Yeah. They did it before you were in the picture. And we do have some pushback with the bio parents, especially men, not trying to bash men, but it's the roles, the gender roles in the relationship, to where the men are, I married you to help take care of my kids.
Right.
Well, that's fine, but your kids aren't receptive to that right now.
Right.
We have to build that foundation, and we have to build the relationship. My stepkids now know that if I ask them where I'm going, I'm not just being nosy. It's because I care about them. And if something happens, I want to know where to go try to find them.
Right.
And I've been re-engaged in a lot of ways with my stepkids. I have good relationships with them. I love them tremendously. They know that I love them and they love me. And the relationships, honestly, I think it's because we did do the nacho thing and because we did go through so much.
Mm-hmm.
They saw us fight for our marriage.
Right. There's your beautiful family again. So do you start this when you're dating?
That would be ideal.
Yeah.
If you can start this when you're dating, you won't go through the crap we went through.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize it, but they are kind of doing a lot of this stuff while they're dating anyway. Mm-hmm. And then when they get married, they're like, oh, I now have the right to parent these kids. I now have the right to tell you what to do.
I'm your stepmama.
We hear so many times people saying things were great when we were dating and the kids were all excited about it. And then as soon as we got married, it just like went crazy. Yeah. It went crazy because you changed what you were doing with the kids and your involvement with them and how you were, now you're telling them what to do. And they're like, you're not my mom. And so there's all this stuff that's happening.
And I'll tell you one thing too, as a stepmom, I was so focused on proving that my stepkids were not these sweet, angelic children that David thought they were.
Yes, they are.
And see, they're not angelic. And wanting to point out everything that they did wrong, I was actually, and this is horrible, it still hurts my heart, not focusing so much on my own son. Right. So also during that stepping back, I focused on my marriage and I focused on my son. Yeah. And I let the other relationships form naturally.
Yeah.
Which gave me space to focus on my kids and the relationship as well.
Mm-hmm. Angela Carr Patterson says we must understand that everyone involved in a blended family have been wounded prior to the blending because of the previous relationships that ended. Thank you, Angela, so much for joining us and for watching. And thank you so much for your comment. We're talking to internationally renowned blended family experts, Lori and David Sims. They are the creators of the NACHO Kids method of parenting. Now, you guys, we have the website up earlier, and it is chock full of information. So you guys have the podcast, you have your NACHO Kids Academy, and the NACHO Club. Can you tell us about each of those methods that people can utilize to help with their blended families?
Well, I'll tell you about the NACHO Club. The NACHO Club was created because Facebook is not safe. We would have bitter bio moms go in, take screenshots, and send them to the ex. It's crazy. It's just not safe. And so we created the NACHO Club, and it's basically a forum, a community forum where people can communicate without having to worry about anybody screenshotting anything or knowing even who they are.
Yeah, it's completely anonymous.
And then the Academy, I'll let David tell you that spiel.
Yeah, so the Academy is what we created to really help people that want to learn the method and they want help and they want to come alongside of other step families and step moms and stepdads even that are having issues and get coaching and things like that. And so there's courses in there. So we create lots of courses around all the things that people are struggling with. And then we have challenges that are several 30-day challenges to, as Lori mentioned earlier, help change your thinking and putting right perspective on things. And
the NACHO Kids Boot Camp.
Yeah, and identifying your triggers, all that kind of stuff. We have forums in there for people to communicate with each other and to us. And so it's really a community to learn and to improve your relationships.
And Q&A calls. I don't know if you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So people can really kind of get not only one-on-one information, advice, tips from you guys, but from other members, other blended families.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great. So it's a great community for blended families to learn and grow and get great methods to successful parenting.
Right. And you don't have to weed through 1,000 posts on Facebook to find what you want. And honestly, our Facebook group is a hot mess, but there are a lot of hurting people. And that's what people need to understand. I get messages all the time. Why do you let these people say this about their kids? Because I was that person before. And I know that you can heal from that. Yeah. And a lot of people,
they're real emotions.
Right.
Too.
You have to recognize them. You can't just sweep them under the rug.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, this as well as I do, they just want to vent. They don't want help.
Yeah.
But those that do want help, we realized that the Facebook group was not the way to try to teach the method. So that's why we created the Academy.
Yeah. When is the how can people access the podcast, and when do you do premiere new episodes?
Every Friday.
Every Friday.
Yeah. So any podcast player, they can find it there. Just look for NACHO Kids Podcast. You can also go to the website, nachokids.com, and there's a link there to the podcast. It's everywhere we can put it.
Yes. And we interview real step families. So if you're a stepmom, a stepdad, even a bio dad in a blend or a bio mom in a blend, if you want to be a guest, reach out to us. That's where we get our content, and we talk and share your stories.
Yeah. And you don't have to agree with our methodology. We have several guests we put on there that's like, I don't really follow that. I don't need the NACHO Kids method. My relationship's good, whatever. We still want to interview those people because it really helps. So many people say, I'm the only one struggling in this, and they feel that way. And that's not true. I mean, there's tons of people out there with the same issues, or they're struggling in their blend. And so understanding that you're not alone is a really good thing.
Yeah. I have to laugh at our most recent podcast. It says the husband's wife.
Right. I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
She has removed herself from the stepmom role completely. She does not want to be called stepmom. She doesn't say she has stepkids. She says her husband has 2 kids. She's been through a lot. Right. And most of our episodes are, and some of them are about parental alienation, which is a whole nother discussion and it's heartbreaking. We could spend hours talking about that alone. And then a lot of them are just trying to grieve those nuclear family expectations that we all want. You hear society is pressuring you to be this nuclear family, be the stepmom, love them like your own.
Be the Brady Bunch, right?
Yes. Well, they had Alice. I didn't have an Alice. That was the problem.
Everybody needs an Alice.
If I'd hadn't Alice, Nacho Kids wouldn't exist. I'd be set.
I'd have had a better dinners.
Yes, you would. Definitely.
Lori and David Sims are the creators of the NACHO Kids method. It aims to reduce the percentage of failed blended families by empowering step parents with tools to save their relationship and sanity by effectively using the NACHO Kids parenting method. You can see their information on the screen, which includes their email address, their website. Website is full of great information, including their NACHO Kids Academy and so much more. So please check out the website. And if you or someone you know has a blended family, just give this a try. You try so many other things. Why not try this? And to me, the biggest thing is if you are dating someone or engaged to someone now is the time to try to figure it out before you jump the broom, or before you put the ring on forever and say all of those beautiful vows that we say.
And again, we thought we were prepared. We heard it takes 7 to 8 years to blend. We're very competitive. We're thinking 7 months max. We're good.
Wow.
And again, all the research I did, but it was trying to form us into a nuclear family. Yeah. And I want to say something to your listeners. If you are struggling in your blend, you are not alone.
Yeah, that's good, Lori.
Get help. I don't care if it's through NACHO Kids. There's also many other step family and blended family coaches. Get help, and don't just throw in the towel. You're more than likely going to end up in another blended relationship. Try to fix and heal the one that you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lori and David Sims, we're coping with NACHO Kids, and they gave us some great information and advice and resources to help us cope with just that. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much too for what you're doing for blended families, and for recognizing, Lori and David, that you were not alone, and there were so many other folks that were dealing with this, and for opening up your lives and sharing your experiences with everyone. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Coming up next week, great initiatives at the Richland County Library, a new Black-owned beauty supply store in Columbia, and on Wellness Wednesday from In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council, we're going to talk about diabetes-free SC with Dr. Timothy Lyons. Now, if you have a product or service that could help someone cope with COVID, please email booking at copingwithtretailor.com. If you have a story or initiative, booking at copingwithtretailor.com. If you've got a product or service, please email copingwithtretailor@gmail.com. We would love for you to be a proud sponsor, just like In It Together SC and the Diabetes Action Council. They sponsor Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with Tre Tailor. Also, the Javis Tax Services, Palmetto Media Connections, the Fifth Circuit Solicitor's Office, Attorney Byron Gibson, Black Pages, Black Expo, Agape Counseling and Training Services, the Comet Bus System, and we're also sponsored by Computers Unique, Dutch Square Mall. Before we go, want to remind you that we always end with a spiritual reading. We've been reading Jesus Calling. Today's the 19th, and it says, I continually call you to closeness with me. I know the depth and breadth of your need for me. I can read your emptiness of your thoughts when they wander away from me. I offer rest for your soul, as well as refresh for your mind and body. As you increasingly find fulfillment in me, other pleasures become less important. Knowing me intimately, God says, is like having a private wellspring of joy within you. The spring flows freely from my throne of grace, so your joy is independent of your circumstances. This is how you trust me in the moments of your life. That's your Jesus Calling for today, Friday, August 19th. I'm Tre Tailor. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you again to Lori and David from NACHO Kids. Please don't forget to check out their website and all the incredible resources that they have available to help you cope with blended families. Until the next time, we wish you peace and abundant blessings. Take care, stay well, God bless, and COVID numbers are still going up. And there's so many other things we got going on. So if you're going to be in a closed area with a lot of people, please don't forget to wear your mask. But you got to wear it over your nose and under your chin. We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.
Coping, find peace of mind to survive through whatever. Coping, can heal, we can heal, we can heal. Coping with stress, coping with strife, bringing hope for success, for improving our life. Coping beyond hoping to do more than survive, ways to live a healthy life. Coping and promoting, learning what you can do, 6 ways to a better you. Coping, find peace of mind to survive